This is going to be the initial setup of the C3000. We'll go into the settings screen here. And now there's different ways to navigate this screen. You can actually push on the button down here to select it. Otherwise, the way I like to do it is just use this over arrow, because that's going to bring you through all of the menus and the sub-menus so you don't forget anything. So we'll start English language, decimal point. You can either have a comma or a period. So we got period. We'll hit the next button. Time and date. We're not going to change anything here, but you can select what format you want. If you want to 24, go ahead and click on, we'll click here, click on January 25th, 2013, hit the check mark, and that changes it. Then we'll click on the next arrow button. Now we're in the units, so we want to change this, so we just push on it here, Imperial US, select it, you hit the green check mark. Our pressure, PSI, area, acres, dry product volume, and really these are all user customizable, so we'll push here and change this over. Let's go with pounds. We're not really going to use that, but dry density units, and do pounds per cubic foot. And liquid product we have at gallons, so we'll leave that. The next light bar at the top of your C3000, you have a light bar. If you're using this for guidance, you could turn that on just as a visual, or leave it disabled. We're just going to leave it disabled for planner. Next, the environment. You can adjust the audio volume by you click here, just like everything else, and adjust it up or down. We'll go down. I like it a little quieter, so let's go down to 20% and hit the green check mark. Oops. Sorry. Your button clicks that you're hearing, you can enable or disable them. Your alarms, you can enable or disable them. Also, you have your touch screens, sensitivity and calibration. So if you were to touch a button and it's not reacting, it's not doing anything, you can go in here, recalibrate it, and change the sensitivity to fix that. But when you do it, it's going to restart the system, so we're not going to do it. We'll hit the red X. Screenshots, just a feature that you can use to export a screenshot of the entire screen. We'll leave it disabled for now. And then automatic steering status window. Let's go ahead and disable that. We're not going to be using this for steering at this time. Next, here we have our map. Point of focus, I always like to be on the implement. Map panning, so if you want to be able to scroll the map from side to side, like you would say on an iPad, that type of feature, you enable that. I like to be able to do that so I can look around if I want to. Just change it to enable, hit the green check mark. Oh, you hit the X. So we'll click on it, enable, green check mark. Auto shift, let's open that up. This is basically when you select Windows on the left hand side, so we'll click enabled, green check mark. When you open up a window on the left hand side of that main screen, it'll automatically shift your map over so that you're not covering up part of your map. Highlight loaded coverage, we'll just leave that disabled. And visual reference line, if you want to line out in front of your vehicle on the map so you know that your headland is maybe 10 feet up in front of the vehicle, you can put a reference line there. We're not going to do that now. Hit the next. And access level, we won't use that at all for planner control. Hit next again. See how it jumps over to system features, and now we have another sub-menu and it's going to go through these. Virtual terminal, we have to have that enabled. That is going to be for your planter screen in order to get in and set that up. File server enabled, leave that. We'll hit the next button. Guidance, we're going to go ahead and disable auto steer because we're not using that. I'm just going to hit the red check so we don't restart this time. But we're not using auto steer this time, so we'll just have that off. Contour traffic, that we'll leave that disabled as well. That's again more for auto steer. Next, our implement, auto section control, we want to enable that. That's going to allow us the ability to automatically control our sections. Variable rate control, we're going to want to enable that. And this task data, if you're running a variable rate map, there's a couple different ways of actually setting that up in the screen. One is through this task data. We're going to leave it disabled for right now, but when we get into variable rate, we'll talk about it more. Hit the next arrow button. Our GPS, if you're running, like most of you probably will be, and it's SCR1, you'd click on here and pick SCR or SGR1. We're not going to do that because we're actually hooked up to an AGI 3. But you just select which one you have. If you're running GPS from an outside source, pulling it in from your Trimble or Ag Leader, then you click on Other. But we'll leave it at AGI 3. Firmware, if you're running an AGI 3 or AGI 4, you can upgrade right there. And OAF file, it's just an options file, again, only for AGI 3. Won't get into that. Next, our correction, we're going to leave it at autonomous. True pass, we'll leave that enabled. But next, our serial port, you want to look at the GPS that you have coming into this controller. COM1 is where we'll leave it at. The baud rate is the thing that you need to make sure and get right. For the SGR1s, you're probably going to be at 19,200. For AGI 3, we're at 115,200. So it's just looking at your receiver, what's it outputting, and matching it on this screen. Next, our output screen. This is only used if we're actually outputting GPS from our C3000 to another controller. So we're going to leave this disabled at all times. Next, radar output, we don't use that, so we'll leave that disabled. We'll hit next. System, the alarms, so you can check which alarms you want on or off. We're just going to leave all these checked and configured to the default settings. We'll hit the next. Flag points, again, you can configure the name and the symbol for all your flag points. So if you want to drop a flag point in the field, this is where you configure what they look like and what the title is for them. But next, area counters. You can either enable, disable your area counter and reset them. We're just going to leave it disabled because we have an area counter on the virtual terminal side on the actual planner screen. So next, this is where we get into setting up the actual vehicle. So to do that, we're in the select screen. We don't have any vehicles selected yet, so we can't grab one. So we'll just, you can hit the plus sign or the next. Both will get you over to add a new one. So you scroll down, you can just grab here and pull down. And we'll grab a Massey Ferguson. And then hit the green check mark. And we're going to scroll down again. We'll grab an 8600. Green check mark. Now you can name it, so we'll hit here to name it. Backspace 2 times. And we're going to just have an 8670. We'll hit 7, 0, green check mark, and green check mark. Alright, so this is going to pull in your values for where your receiver is in relation to the drawbar on the tractor. Very important that you get that right, especially your C measurement, your B measurement, and your D measurement. The rest of them aren't near as important, but those are very critical when it comes to auto section control. If you're running an AGI 3 and you have tilt compensation, then it's very important to know your height of it as well. So make sure and double check all these measurements. One thing to note, depending on what software version you're running and what tractor you pick, on the AGCO tractors, whether it's a Massey 8600 or Challenger MT600. The AGI-3, which is the factory installed receiver, is offset to the left 1.73 inches. So since we're to the left, it's negative. Make sure that's in there. That's very important. Otherwise, you'll end up about that 2 inches offset every time you turn around. Then we'll hit the next screen. This is only for our steering control, so we're not going to worry about that. We'll hit the next screen. And the antenna type, that'll always stay internal for this application. Alright, so that is the basic setup. Once we get to this point, we want to go in and actually set up the planter and the virtual terminal side before we do anything on the C3000.